but not so much, huh?
It is now 2:00. It is the Board of Directors meeting of the Wildewood Springs Condominium Association. Can I have confirmation of proper notice, please?
Notice was posted February 13th according to statutory requirements.
I'm still getting my Valentine's Day Christmas that week.
I may say Happy President's Day, Mr. President, Happy President's Day.
Thank you. I'm sure that's not what they call this then. Okay, roll call, please.
Roger Schultz.
Here.
Dick O'Dowd. Here. Leslie Jacobs. Here. Pam Flanagan's here. Dick Picola.
Yes, here.
Paul Salvis.
Absent.
Jim Munson.
Yep.
Stephen Abul.
Here.
Claire Dewhurst.
Here.
Tammy Albarn. Here. Debbie Dial. Here. John Humphrey. Here. Sue Downs. Here. John West.
Well, answer.
Hi, Peter.
Johnson here.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a quorum. Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you welcome. Like I said, this is the Wildewood Springs Condominium Association Board of Directors meeting. At the end of the agenda, you will see I will get to owners' comments, so please hold your comments until that particular time. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, at this time I do believe you did receive the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody received them? At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to accept or make.
I so move.
Motion made by Claire Dewhurst, seconded by Dick O'Dowd. Is there any discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion. All in favor, signify by raising their hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Financial matters. John, in the absence of John West, would you please give us the financial report?
I will. A small typo in the manager's report receiving the, regarding the financial. Units that owe 1/4 or more than $500 are 2. Units that owe 1/4 are 8. Units that owe 2/4 are 2. Units that owe 3/4 are 0. And we have 2 with legal issues, 1 paying per the bankruptcy agreement and 1 with attorney for foreclosure. Having stated that, I'll get to the status of the legal units in a moment.
Okay.
Presently, in our operating account, and there are financial summaries there if anybody wishes them. Operating account is $975,753.01. Reserves $885,351.05. Our assets and liabilities balance at $1,951,383.84. We're only 1 month into the new fiscal year, so there's usually some wide variances during that first month as we go ahead and amortize money for the prior year's expenses. But basically, for the year, we are over budget by 1 month of $1,100, primarily due to utilities, and that's because this time of year the utility costs are usually higher, and they even out as we go through the year and people go north. Our surplus, operating surplus at the end of the first month of the fiscal year is $175,000. Any questions on the balance sheet?
Any questions? Now we move on to the.
Units with legal issues.
Thank you.
All right, Unit 457 is continuing to make payments per the bankruptcy agreement, so that's in order. We are challenging the fact that payments do not equal the quarterly payments, and the attorney is looking into that. So the reduction is not, although they sent us a check for $6,000 at the beginning of the bankruptcy, they're still in arrears of $4,484. When the bankruptcy has been filed, we are not allowed to contact the owner for collections or anything to deal with any monies owed. The other unit that has grave issues is Unit 702, and the foreclosure is scheduled for next week. We are told that the owner has, first of all, they were supposed to have mailed a check last week that never got to the attorney, and now today we got word that a certified check for the entire amount owed, which is somewhat, you see here $7,000, but there's attorney's fees and everything else. It's about $8,400. They're supposed to be delivering a check on Thursday. Check in the mail. We've all heard that story. And so I have informed the attorney to continue with the foreclosure. Do not cancel anything that's on the docket, because if they don't show up with the money, foreclosure will happen. In general, the accounts receivable are probably at its lowest ever. Any questions?
Any questions on the municipal legal issues? If not, we'll move on to whole business, and that would be item A, status of the second floor walkway renovation.
Okay, it's coming along somewhat slow because of the massive amount of work that has to be done on each one, but units 592 and 591 and 580 and 581 are complete. Both costs were in the $5,600 range. Unit 436 and 437 Drive have been completed. The next units to renovate will be Pinehurst Unit 150 and 151. What we're finding is a little different in each one. Some has a tile on top that has to be taken out. Some has paint on top that has to be basically scrubbed off. Some has extensive damage underneath for support systems. Some has water going into the kitchen units that migrate through the wall. We seem to have gotten the three worst ones right now, and that's the good news. All water seems to be out. Roger, your unit, we had hoped to start this week, but the word I'm getting from the contractor is this next Monday probably.
That's not going to interfere with what your plans are, with your project, right?
No, shouldn't.
Good deal. And the next item is that black rubber edging materials.
Project complete, it's all removed. There has been some calls to the office regarding why we're taking it out, because concerned of mulch or dirt spilling over onto the walkways. The problem is that we've had slip and falls with those particular materials, and they were quite extensive to the two people who tripped. It cost us that and subjugation for leaks in the walls before we fix the piping. Have cost us to lose our liability insurance. Our liability insurer was the most reasonable, and last year we paid $17,000 for liability insurance, and this year the best quote we're receiving is $44,000 because liability insurance is up. We'll be getting to insurance in a little bit, but you'll notice that little packet and article in front of you. We'll talk about that in a bit. But right now, that's the rubber edging is out.
Now, the next item, if you folks could just bear with me a moment, on the boundary clarification with Tidewater Association. We spoke about this in depth at the workshop. And we did set a bunch of board members, myself, Pam, Roger, Leslie, Steve, Debbie, and Dick, and John Humphreys, and Sue. Went over there and took a look at the area. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I am really tired of divisiveness. There's just too much of it in this country, and I really don't want to see it extended locally to the Tidewater neighborhood. So this bothered me all week to come up with a plan or something that we can do, take a course of action to see if we can resolve this. I spoke to a few of the board members telephonically and in person. One of the things I came up with is it would be nice if we could reach out, a small delegation, not a committee, a small delegation of board members, to approach the Tidewater Association's board members, invite them to our house. When I say our house, our office, sit down and chat and see what exactly do they want. What exactly would fit their needs, wants, and desires. Without going through attorneys and the legal process and things like that. Roger was with me, Pam, Sue, and on the golf cart with me along with Leslie, and we were approached by board members who were out there doing the same thing we were doing. It's just visualizing boundary markers and where it started and where it started. And they were very kind people. I found them to be very likable, and they approached us and said they had voted to give us, that they would give $500 to defray the cost of the $2,000 that we spent to have the actual survey done. And we thank them for their generosity and their graciousness. So what I propose to the board is that I lead a team, a small team of board members to reach out to Tidewater Association just to get a feel for what's on their mind and what would they like. And how can we resolve this? But before we do that, I also want to get the input from, what was it, 4.5 owners? We thought it was 4.5, maybe 5 owners
Yeah, but it worked.
that would lose a view or a partial view of the big lake back there. So I just want to bring that to the board's consideration and get the board's approval for me to lead this delegation to find out what can we do. Roger.
I was just going to say, I'd be glad to make a motion to let you lead this delegation and grab a few other members to proceed and visit with the folks that are impacted on our side and to visit with those directors from Tidewater so that we can have a productive, calm, casual meeting without any attorneys involved to discuss that property line and what their problems or issues might be.
Thank you. Dick, you second it? All right, I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Dick, hold it.
Is it worthwhile to take a moment to explain to folks what expenses might be involved?
Yeah.
Anything like that? So they're a little wider?
Yeah, that's a good idea. What we're looking at is potentially $10,000 legal fee to go ahead and file suit on that, what the hell is it? It's not anything. Permissive, all right,
Yeah, permissive,
based on the fact that we
easement, possessive easement,
Okay.
prescriptive easement.
And that's a legal term for nothing more that says that we've taken care of this property for the past, that I know, 16 years, probably before that. We've trimmed it, we've maintained it, we've kept the foliage down to absorb the view. So in talking and communication with our attorney, we had gotten a pro bono remarks from them about what position we can be in. But it can cost us conceivably up to $10,000. Okay, and that's just for the legal fee. And then they gotta go to court, and we might not win. Okay, and then they would have to go to court. They could win or lose. So I thought before we even got there, that we all sit down, let cooler heads prevail, reach out as neighbors to the Tidewater Association, and come to some kind of a conclusion, then report back to the board what our findings were. But
What would the $10,000 cover?
legal fees,
Just legal fees?
legal
For
fees,
them to do what?
to file that we're gonna get this, that it's gonna be ours, and we win the case. And no disrespect to lawyers. Right, they can't guarantee, they can't guarantee anything.
Right.
So,
I don't think you told us what you're talking about, what we won or lost. We're clueless out there.
the property line that runs behind the 750 or 724
Yeah.
in the 700s, the view of the lake. It runs from the lake all the way up, close to the units, out and across to pole 6. Okay. The thing of it is, the lift station is on 2 feet on our property. We have nothing to do with that because that's a county project. We can't fight that. But their pump, turns out, that's on our property.
How close does it actually come to our building?
30 feet?
Oh, so, okay.
John, you
Yeah,
want?
well, you're doing an adequate job, but I just don't understand. No more than that. It's an area of about, say, 50 yards coming from Oakview back behind our property. The width near the end is just basically the lake bank itself. And we've been maintaining this for the years I've been here and for the many years before that. It includes some of our grass that we cut. And so there's, as Jim has said, there's legal ramifications. Number one, to prevail and say, hey, take possession of that property could be very costly with just the various issues you have to resolve to prove that we've been taking care of it for a period of time. Is it worth the fee? Is it worth the discussion and the possible angst that happens?
Gotcha.
That's basically it. It's not a lot of property, but it's the lake bank. And aesthetically, we've been trimming it so everybody could have a use if you walk by it. You didn't have to look through trees or weeds or anything like that. And if those weren't understanding of the whole issue, was that last time we trimmed it, they being Tidewater, said, that's our property, we don't want you trimming it. And so therefore, we had to stop trimming it.
And it was the manner in which it was done.
Well, yeah.
Pam?
Cooler heads are available now.
What the issue is for us is that allowed to just grow wildly, this property we've been maintaining, would affect the lake views of several of Wildewood Springs units. So, but we have a little disagreement between 2 and 5 units, probably about 3 units, that would have an obstructed view of the lake, that probably bought their unit because of the view of the lake. And so, but is that worth $10,000 at Condo?
Claire, you had your cover, good.
Do you know approximately what it has cost us in manpower to maintain that property?
All I could say is, when our guys go over there to the mobile lawn, we trim it, it's about a 4-hour operation, actually trim the whole way from. It takes about 6 guys and the tractor and the trailer, and then if you're just gonna go ahead and mow from it, it's just one guy. So
it's
I have no clue to come up with a dollar value as what it had cost us for the past 20 years to maintain it. Hell of a lot of money.
have they indicated whether or not they would be willing to reimburse us for that?
Claire, there's no, no, this is all part of what my plan is that has been bothering me since this crap started and want to get it resolved. The questions you're asking, I don't know. I don't know what's on their mind. I don't know what they think.
Okay,
So I plan on finding this one.
can we, before we meet with them, come up with a figure of what it has cost us? Just an average. I mean, if you know it takes 6 hours to do whatever you have to do, and it takes 4 guys and a tractor, there's gotta be some monetary amount we can put to that and figure out how many times a month do you have to do it, how many months have we been doing it?
The major trimming that Jim's referring to, the 4 to 5 hours, is once every 2 years. There probably is a 20-minute grass cut per week. That's all.
Per week.
Per week, every Thursday or Wednesday. Okay, Sue, let's move on. Let's move on.
You know, and I would just say that I think, Jim has an excellent idea, because right now, we can't even say that what is there is going to obstruct the owner's views, because there's one palm tree that will grow,
But we don't even know, we don't know if that's all brush and it's only gonna go up to maybe 10 feet. It will never maybe obstruct the view of the lake. We don't really know. There's so many unknowns. When I go back there and look, Pete, that might be something you go and look at. I don't see it.
Yeah,
By the way, Pete's our chairperson for the.
because John knows, he was over there when our guys were over there when they initially started, you know? And it almost, when you're talking to them, it's almost the idea, though, their whole thing was they didn't want to see our unit. But the way this comes down like this, it goes around the corner. Where do you want us to stop? Because here, maybe, grow up so they can't see our units. I don't see as though having to do that whole thing, because when you get way over here, they're not looking at our units, they're looking out across the village.
And once the board gives me a final approval to go ahead with my plan, is I'm gonna take photographs of that whole area, from the line of shot of where the linear shot is done for the surveys and the aesthetic shot too. John Humphrey, I see you.
Yeah, I don't know if I can bring up what I thought at the workshop, or,
You can bring up anything you want as a director.
to me, it's crazy. We're a huge outfit with a lot of capital. There's like 5 or 6 units in there, and they don't have a lot of money. So my thought was, buy the piece of land for $10,000. And if they didn't want to do that, we both go to court, and it's gonna cost them 20 grand and us 20 grand.
I understand your point, John, and it's well taken, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have a small delegation. I didn't want to go in there and intimidate a small association.
They have 26 units.
Well, I have 26 units, but I'm sure they only got 5 board members. I didn't want to go in there, you know, overload everything. So, and that's taken into consideration too, John, it's a part of my notes, you know. Leslie, one final subject, and then call for the vote.
What folks here could do, I guess, is go over and look at this, that whole view, as you're going out toward 34th Street, and see the stakes, and you'll see how the property that we clearly own is still the majority of the property that's in question, but it's the property between those stakes and the water that goes down in the bank that Tidewater clearly owns according to the survey. But we don't know how much the brush they have there will grow up, and how it really affects only 2 units at the end directly that have their view partially blocked. But if they do this, they'll see the whole lake. It's not a complete disaster for our unit owners by any means. But it's worth going over and seeing it, because I was one of the people who's very in favor of what in New York is called constructive easements. We have treated that property in question as our own, probably for as long as Wildewood Springs has existed. But it is always better, I'm told, to be kindful to your neighbors than fighting with your neighbors. So I reluctantly applaud Jim's idea, because I think it is in everyone's best interest.
I call for the vote.
Call for the vote. All motions made and seconded. All in favor signify by raising their hand. All opposed, same sign.
Are we going to send a small delegation?
Small delegation.
Okay.
Got it? All against?
All in favor?
All in favor? Unanimous. Motion's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will get this resolved.
So, I just have one quick question. How many people do you plan on having on this delegation?
Just 4 months.
No.
Yeah, okay, satisfied? Everybody? Good. All right, let's move on. The Association Fiscal 2019 Audit.
Audit's been received, the draft of the audit has been received. All is in order. the questions that we had regarding the income from the usage of the income from the deal with the Spectrum has been resolved. Final copies of the audit will be submitted to all. We'll have copies at the office for anybody who wants them. We'll put it on the bulletin board and on the TV when they're ready.
And Chris, digital copy for the website's going to you.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, well, Chris knows what's up. Chris, the question was, you know, that it goes on the private side of the website.
Right, right.
All right, the annual meeting, it's gonna be March 9th,
Correct.
2 o'clock, right here at the church.
Be right in this room.
I'll let you know at the end of the meeting.
All the mailings have gone out. If anybody hasn't received one, please let us know or stop by the office for a packet. We recommend that you fill out a proxy and submit it, even if you intend to come, just in case there's some reason that you don't, or to avoid a line when you come in, because if you've submitted your proxy, you don't have to sign in when you come in. We're in need of proxies. We're sending out a weekly email blast to everyone who we have email addresses to remind them to send the proxies in. We need, either in person or via proxy, 280 units to be able to conduct business. So please, if you haven't submitted a proxy, please send it. There are also elections in this particular meeting. The election for a seat in Palm Tree between Monica Heigl and George Fisher, and for the director at large between Mr. Passy and Mr. Cole. Those of you who have not voted, it's important that you do that too. It's important that the rather strange way the state set it up, your ballots will not be considered valid unless they're voted, put in a small envelope, it says ballot, and then that ballot goes in a ballot envelope, and you must sign your name and unit number on the outside. If any of that's not done, the ballots are considered invalid. Once the votes are counted, we will not know who voted what, because we take the envelope that has your name and address on it and put it aside, put your vote over here, and not open the vote until they're separated. So no one will have to know who you voted for. But it's important to get the proxies in so we can attain a quorum. Every year, at the last minute, we're running around trying to get 4 or 5 proxies. 280 is tough. Any questions? And it will be right here in this room.
Okay. Let's get into new business. John, I know you've got a bunch of communications.
Communications, you've got letters attached. Owners of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have been sent late notices for maintenance fees. These units kind of constantly are late, so it's time to show the board some of the things we do for collection. The letter was also sent to Window Depot. They were soliciting on the property for window sales, and they were kind of defiant when we helped them leave the property. As a matter of fact, today I got a call from Palm Tree that Keller Williams realtors were on the property walking around soliciting sales. So we had to ask them to stop and leave also. Finally, another letter was sent to owner Sute at 411. She's had a hassle with her window company. They put in white windows. They were supposed to remove them to put the proper bronze window in. They have not. Now they say they're going to paint it. They have not, and she's basically been given a period of time to resolve the issue or be fined.
That's the problem that we find with these solicitors that come on our property selling windows or whatever the case might be. Poor lady over there, she was sold a bunch of goods by a window company. She said, oh, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing, and was taken to the cleaners. Now she's hung out to dry to paint the trim of the windows herself. Okay. We do have, I'm going to reiterate, we do have a list of reputable contractors, window people, plumbers, electricians, anything that your little heart could desire to do work inside your unit at the office. They've been vetted. When I say they've been vetted, they've been recommended by other unit owners for for doing a great job and charging a fair amount for the work that they do. These knuckleheads, for lack of a better word, one of them showed up at my door. Davis. And said, "Who are you? You can't do anything to me." After I escorted him, I escorted him, put a website tape, down the stairwell into his vehicle, and told him, "Don't ever come back, because then you will really find out who I am." And that happens to quite a few people. They come in and they say, "Well, Mrs. Jones over here at this place hired us to do their windows, or this one over here hired us to do our windows." They're aggressive. We had a report of one owner, I don't want to give a name, but they physically pushed their way into her unit to get her to sign an agreement. So just beware, folks. Call the office. We will give you the reputable people to do business with, and give you a bunch of, because there are a bunch of them out there that are really, really good. But the snakes are still out there. You don't want to deal with them. All right. Only unit owner request. You got your packet. I see the pictures.
Yes, Mr. Bates of 136.
Yes.
Is here to talk about his request. There's currently a cover or a roof type system on the corner of the courtyard of his unit. He's a new purchaser, and we welcome him. And he's here, he wishes to replace that particular structure. Would you stand up?
Where you at? There you are.
Hi, I'm Steve Bates. I understand your positions too. I'm president of the HOA from Ohio.
Oh, we don't, can we charge an extra $5 now you do things back on there?
Go Bucks. All right. We have an existing structure that's very weathered. It's been there who knows how long. It probably, according to the covenants, is not supposed to be there, but it is. And it's deteriorating now. It's beginning to collapse inside. Our courtyard is unusual in that they detoured around a tree, a large tree, and when the place was built many years ago in the 70s, they actually ran the courtyard around the tree. So we end up with this, what could be a storage area, we have a grill, and our rakes and stuff for inside. And also our irrigation system controls and what have you are under this cover. It doesn't stick up very far, but what's there now is pretty unsightly. You can see from the photographs. It's weathered. It's nothing more than a piece of OSB siding and it's beginning to collapse inside. I'd like to replace that, but I knew I needed to come before you to get that permission. I do want to do it properly. What's there wasn't ever done properly. Want to put a metal roof like you have over all the mailboxes, that corrugated metal roofing that would go up there, and just simply replace that cover. It needs a little more draft on it. It only has about 1.5 inches of draft. I could use another couple of inches in the back. There are no scuppers inside. I prefer not to reverse it and dump the water inside. If I rebuild it below the wall, I'm going to walk into it with my forehead. It's only 67, 68 inches height inside. So you can see what's there. I know some of you will walk by it and kind of look at it. And certainly
They each have a picture of everything
good.
in their packet.
And whatever you decide, certainly we'll find.
Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your little diagram. And I was one of those that went by and took a look at that. And did discuss this at the workshop. And one of the things that came up at the workshop is we have to protect the documents. And the documents are very clear, and nothing should be above the wall. Nothing should be above the wall courtyards, period. And when I drove by, I could see, and without measuring it, 3 inches above the wall of the courtyard.
That's correct. There's 3 inches at the back side, 1.5 inches at the front side.
Okay. We did discuss this, sir. And yes, I understand it was there when you bought the unit, and I can tell it's been there for quite a while. But my comment is that it is against our documents. We discussed this, like I said, at the workshop, we discussed it with the building committee chair. And it's my opinion that it has to come down. And I think it would be better in your best interest if it did come down, because looking at it, if you were under there and it came down when you wanted to wear it, you'd be injured. I wouldn't want to see that. But we're going to listen to the rest of the board. Right? Dick, you can wait?
Yeah, I think that we have to protect the documents. I know that's a hard thing. What I wonder is why you can't have it, you know, at the level of the wall. Those walls are about over 7 feet high or something.
No, unfortunately, it's only,
Well, this is in the front, yeah.
it's.
No, it's the back courtyard, but Steve and I, in our buildings round, noticed that some walls are 7 foot, some walls are 6 foot, and his happens to be 6 foot.
Ours is under 6. It's 5'7" from the wall to the pavers
And
inside.
we do have one over there in Pinehurst, it's about 2.5 feet tall. Whatever. Who wants it? So you go ahead, Sue.
Okay, I just want to say that I know this is difficult because you bought it with it there. And it's a hard thing to go through all Wildewood Spring and identify what has been done that's against the documents. I mean, in an ideal world, we would have found everything that goes against the documents and said, fix this because it's against the documents. But it's not a perfect world. And unfortunately, we have to stick with our documents. Although I want you to know that that certainly is something that we feel good about doing. We just don't seem to have a choice.
So there's no way to bring that to the level of the wall itself? I like you were saying, cause injury to yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna walk into it. It's actually cheaper to build it inside. It's less than 8 feet wide. It's longer than 8 feet, so there's a lot of added cost to hit that span. Yeah, I'll look at some ways and the thing is, I'm going to have to, in order for the water to drain off, I'm going to have to make it even worse. I'm going to slope it toward the inside. I'm going to reverse the slope on it. Not going to be able to run it.
If there's no scupper there, I'm sure you would be allowed to put a scupper in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what was my next question to you, John. We can put a scupper. We have the capability to put a scupper
We could
at
even
the
do that
base of
for
the
you.
wall. At our expense.
Okay.
The association would do it.
Then I could do on the back side, below the top of the wall, I could do a gutter and route it out to scupper.
So that,
And that would get the front end up as
See how
high
easy-
as possible without.
see how easy to get along?
Yeah.
I hope you can get as long as you inch the way back to your.
Well, I'm on the other side of it there.
Oh, okay.
It's the same fun.
All right.
Yeah,
Sue,
that'd be
anything
great.
else?
No, that was my.
All right, so my recommendation is, the board is all right. John, just pass it on to our guys again and help the gentleman get his scupper placement.
Once you give us an idea where you want it, we can fix it.
And at this point, it'd be a
Bunch of
non-issue.
water out there. It's not-
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Appreciate it. All right, Cortez Road entry sign renovation.
The grounds committee, or landscape committee, in their request for beautification and the aesthetics, have taken a look at that entry sign that we all look at, and noted with correctness that there's issues with it. There's a hole in it, it's original, it's, yeah, it is what it is. And they asked me if I would consider getting some proposals to update that sign. I've talked to 2 or 3 sign companies, and only one came out. That was Florida Sign. They're located right up the street, and they've been quite slow in getting at least something for you to look at, to consider. They promised to have it to be last Friday, but it didn't come in. I talked to them today, and they said it might be another week because they're so busy. It's just something that you may want to look at. You may say no. I would believe that we could use something a little bit more updated. Maybe we certainly have room to elevate that sign on 2 sides by a foot and a half easily, so people could see it more, so it doesn't get buried. And it even could be lit because there's power there. So it's just something forthcoming now. And if you want me to stop the project and not interested, I'll do that too.
I don't think anybody had a goal on the project start. I think we just wanted to continue and come back with dollars and figures. Or we could have John Humphrey stand out front there with a sign spinner.
We all know where the entrance is, so I don't want anybody else to know.
All right. Next thing you know, we got quite a few of these sidewalks that slabs that need to be replaced.
Yeah, I inspected the sidewalks, and here again, trip hazards, slip and fall hazards that we want to eliminate. And my most recent inspection shows about 13 or 14 slabs that have to be replaced, and 2 or 3 that have to, all we'll need to do is grind down. The good news is on the sidewalk replacement, a couple of them we've already ground, and what happens, there's tree roots under them. So when we take up the slab, they cut the roots in a manner that they can't come back under and push up again. So yes, they all theoretically be ground, but we're just going to be doing it again and again and again. I haven't gotten a price yet because I just did the inventory last week. However, it's well within the amount of money that I can spend, and I would get the contractor who's done it in the past from us to do it. I'd like permission to do it.
Go right
If I find it competitive.
Go right ahead, John.
Okay.
Because that's going to tie into what you and I have been working on the past couple of weeks, is our insurance package renewal. On Friday last, I had an opportunity when I was in on the conference call with our current insurance agent. And after his pitch, we asked him to come back with a sharper pencil than what he did. However, the news isn't good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it to you, because if I was going to sugarcoat anything to you, I'd tell you to go eat a donut. But the fact is, we're facing an increase in our insurance policy based on a few criteria. The slip and falls, the stack pipes, prior to replacing them, with such occasion on them, and the liability itself. It was an interesting conversation I was saying about John and I were making kind of fun of the guy, because we know what percentage he's asking for, and we know what kind of percentage we want to be at. So we're waiting on what, Wednesday, John?
Wednesday for the final quote, and here's the initial quote that you've been discussing with Jim and I. You already talked about the best liability quote, and that's for sure. It's going to go from 17 to a minimum of 44,000. But our property insurance last year was 241,000, and right now, if the quote came in as it did last week, it would be 264,000. That's a breathtaker. This is the first year we've really lowered our insurance budget to 295 because we've been anticipating these various changes. However, this year we're getting the curveball and it's going up. If we were to add everything up from what the first proposal came to us, or the initial proposal, it's about 325,000, about 30,000 more than last year. Our budget's 295. The good news is that we collect money in advance over the year for insurance, and in insurance file, or in the amount that we currently have encumbered for insurance, is about 340,000. So what that means is that we'll have no problem paying whatever bill comes in. However, that will eat somewhat into our surplus that we have. And talking to them, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because you can say, yes, we had damage, but we paid for our own damage during the hurricane 2 years ago. We paid almost $97,000 in our cleanup, mainly because it was grounds and none of the damage to the buildings exceeded our deductible. The big problem is all insurance companies buy what they call reinsurance. In other words, if Steve's insurance company, and our policy is $73 million for buildings, okay? So Steve's insurance company comes in and they give us a quote on $73 million, they may only take, quote unquote, their own, the own amount to insure. They may want to insure $25 million, and they go to the reinsurance market for the difference between the 25 and the 73. Now, the reinsurance market doesn't just take Manatee County, Southwest Florida, Florida, or even the United States. The reinsurance market insures worldwide. And of course, you know, you say you're a tsunami in Thailand, and you say, well, that's not going to affect me. Well, in today's world economy, it does. Wildfires in California, that shouldn't affect us. It does, because it's all involved with the reinsurance market. So the rates, the property rates aren't really up, but the reinsurance costs are up. And so therefore, we're looking at increasing rates, and I've just gotten a little information from our agent today that I've given to each board member, and it talks just about that. Our agents have gone to almost 35 or 40 different markets, and the board also has a copy of all the insurance markets they went to try to get us the best deal. Now, we know that they also have a percentage markup because they're in that business, the agents, and so we're hitting them as hard as we can to have them understand, to come in and maybe give us a break on what their commissions are. So we're looking right now at a maximum of 325. We hope we're going to get it lowered down to the 300, low 300s.
Okay, so
Any questions?
John, just so that I'm clearing this, what I'm looking at is we're looking at liability insurance going up about $23,000, and the other insurance going up approximately $23,100. So we're really talking about next year, when we just budget, just so you have this in your brain, about a $46,000 increase.
Yeah,
And just insurance alone.
Yes.
So if you can remember, $46,000 approximately.
that's a good.
That's
point.
what we're looking at when we sat down and put our budget together for next year.
Yeah, our final bill was 265 last year, and this year will be up in the threes for sure.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there you go.
So that's approximately.
One of the things that we were
Good
adamant,
point, Sue.
Thank you.
one of the things we were adamant about is that we're on a time schedule, the association. Our time, the policy ends March 7th. And the skeptic that I am, they're thinking, oh, this agent is holding back with dollars and figures and whatnot to get closer to that point where it gets to the March 5th or March 6th, and we have no choice but to go ahead and get this policy. Okay. But after speaking with him and getting his knowledge and his input and backtracking what he's told us and what, you know, you always trust, but you also verify. Okay? And we did verify what he was saying. And it is true. So like Sue says, we got to keep this in mind for next year. Fortunately, we have the funds in our surplus to go ahead, if it comes out of that amount of dollars, to to go ahead and I'll just write the check next week or the week after.
You don't need any authority to do that.
No. Just let the board know, just and the owners know what transpires and what happens on this side of the fence. So, what do you say, Wednesday, right, John?
Wednesday.
Yep. Plan on being on the conference call with them again on Wednesday. Okay, any questions on that? All right, managers report, did we cover everything, John?
Not quite, but a couple of things. We did miss one thing, that I had a conversation with the unit owner of 8030 regarding feeding of stray cats outside of the unit. They said they'll cease that operation.
Thank you very much.
All the vehicle entry signs have been replaced with new signs, construction higher for better visibility. And of course, they're all lit now and getting positive response on that. The dumpster that was damaged by a vehicle in cluster H, reconstruction is completed, and the cost was $900, and the insurance company, the owner's insurance company paid us the $900 to repair. There are 2 carport posts, one in cluster S and one in N, that need to be replaced. I found a fabricator, but he will build them, but not install them, so we're going to check and see if we can do it, but we will be removing at least one. The one in S is totally rusted and deteriorated at the base. The one in N, somewhere along the line, must have gotten bumped because it's got a little angle to it. Also, I've received suggestions from 2 owners in the past week. One says that owners should be reminded to shut water off while you're brushing your teeth. Save water. So, there you go.
I actually did that this morning.
Yeah.
Because I always keep it running when I'm brushing my
Yeah,
teeth. I tried this one, you can still brush your teeth. Fine.
And also, free little libraries. Someone has proposed to put a wooden box with a plexiglass door that could be installed over existing mailboxes to be used as a depository for books to be exchanged by owners.
It's a great idea.
And that's it, sir.
Okay. Let's get the committees. Chris, I'll yield to you on the IT committee.
Yes. We are going through, the committee's actually going through a review of the website, and every member of the committee is taking a different portion. We're taking a look at if our links are working, if the documents are there that say they are. And any of you, if you find that when you click on something it doesn't do what it should do, please let us know, and we'll try to fix that. One question that came to me from Debbie just over the weekend, I believe, or not long ago, was how does an owner put up their unit for sale? It's very easy on this website. You go to the for sale area, you choose whether you want to sell it or rent it, and you can submit all the information yourself. You can have a realtor involved and list the realtor as the person to contact. But you can put in pictures, you can put in descriptions, then you hit submit, and it will go to one of us, and we will simply approve or disapprove it. And normally we're going to approve it. So it's an easy process if you want to put up a listing for either sale or rent.
Question for Chris?
Go ahead.
Chris, you said we're not getting too many pictures of pets on the website.
Right.
I couldn't get there.
You couldn't,
To put my pets.
it wouldn't go in?
I couldn't get to where the pet page is.
Oh, okay. We'll take a look at that, but as far as I know, it's available. We'll see.
Okay. It probably was.
Tammy, let's talk about the complex sales.
Thank you everyone who participated. We had 51 people who were selling their goods and signed up, and I hope that everyone had fun doing it. Hopefully we will do it again next year. Just remember that if Spring Lakes or Wildewood 2 has a garage sale or a courtyard sale, don't buy, it'll be your stuff. But I hope everybody had fun.
Thank you, Terry, that was a great job. Thank you very much. John Humphrey, what do you got on infrastructure? Anything?
You know, we got some potholes we're gonna have to start taking care of.
We're talking about here, not Michigan.
I'm from New York, not Michigan. No, we got no potholes, we got.
Take a look.
Okay, there we go. Let's go with the landscapers.
This past month, we've been continuing our weed eradication program and trimming. Like John said, all the signs are done and painted now. We've cleaned out the beds and we've just started planting the beds. We have a few more to do and we should be all set with that. And things are going along good.
Good.
We also did the front entrance.
Front entrance, see, yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Steve, you want to talk about our water conservation project we got?
Okay.
Yes, please.
We got this, how many was it, Bill?
Water bill was up $5,000 in December, almost over normal.
Well, I owned my own plumbing company for many years. And when you have a toilet that runs, or sometimes you don't think it's running, but it is running, the amount of water that can be used can get into the hundreds of gallons, literally in a few days. And then you take that over a course of a month, you really don't notice it. A lot of people say, well, every once in a while I hear it, add water, and that's because it's leaking out. I went ahead and went to a wholesaler house, plumbing, and got some tablets that we're going to either distribute or you can come and get them at the office. They're just little dye tablets. Literally the only thing you do is you take off the top lid or lift it up, pop one in, flush the toilet. Let it sit for at least a half hour. You look in the bottom bowl and you see some of that blue dye, your toilet's leaking. And that's usually water. And that's usually just a flapper, which is very inexpensive. But I think if we all check them, and I think we'll find that there's, quite a few. Out of 500, I'll bet you there'll be 30 or 40. But, a lot of times it's just literally like a couple dollar flapper that needs to be changed and plugs the hole. And we were thinking about even buying some of those and having them available, or if you're not that handy, maybe one of the guys could come over and change it for you. We're just trying to get that, $5,000 and we got 1 month. That's a lot of money. So the tablets are at the office. I don't know how you want to do that. I'll let you.
Well, we're going to start at the annual meeting alongside with the proxy, how we do with the proxies. This way we can make a check out that so-and-so's got it and whatnot. Okay. Let me put,
If people walk in with their praxis too.
yeah. Let me put it in terms that you'd understand. When you sit there and write a check and sign the check to Manatee County Utilities, and it's a 5-figure check, okay, it kind of makes your hands tremble. And a lot of people think, well, heck, water and sewer, I don't pay for it. So what the heck? Well, folks, yes you do. You pay for it in your association fees, okay? So we come up with a plan to cut back on the usage of water, because what happens is it comes in one way we get charged, but we get charged 2.5 times on the way the water is going out. And we're not talking about the landscape, and we're not talking about the sprinkler systems, because that's unreclaimed water. But it's going to be up to the individual owners to get a handle on this. That's why we came up with the tablet idea. We're going to make them available. 90% of the time it's a little flatbread, a little rubber thing that gets destroyed. Some folks put bleach when they go away to make sure there's no mold and mildew in the toilet, and that's great. But that bleach eats up on the rubber, creates a false seal, and the water continues to flow. What do we think, one is leaking every day, is it 20 gallon?
About 20 gallons a day.
20 gallons a day, that's one toilet. And everybody's got two. And then going back, Debbie was brought up at the workshop, going back old school, putting a brick. My dad used to do it back in the day, put a brick in the tank, bring the water level up so there's not much water used. So it's up to all of us. We're all in this together to keep our water consumption and to keep the money in our own pockets instead of giving it to the county. All right. Before we move on to directors, I got one thing to bring to you about security. We've got a problem. And it's, a lot of times it's a seasonal problem. But we've had, in the past, uninvited visitors come onto our property. We've had them stealing bikes from carports. Bikes should be in the carport, number one. Number two, the bikes were not locked with a chain in some cases. That's an invite. Some cases they were locked with a chain. One instance we had fishing equipment left in a carport unattended, and it's now residing at the office if anybody wants to go fishing at the lake. But we've got individuals that are coming onto our property uninvited. Our security forces are dying to get hold of them. We've got our camera systems up. Our camera systems work very well. But our security forces come on the property 3 to 4 times a night, different various times. I'm not going to tell you when. But some people have been trespassed. Some of these individuals are now riding around with decent-looking bikes. We had an incident 2 weeks ago where our security chased and caught from Spring Lakes. There was a guy coming out of Spring Lakes with a bike, 2 of them, with a bicycle with a little trailer behind the one bike with a bunch of bikes stacked on it. Okay? We got him. I say we, the security detail got him. Held him for the Madison County Sheriffs. They got him up by Tidewater Association. Just as late as last night, I got a phone call of 2 individuals in a pool making themselves at home in a hot tub, drinking drinks out of a drink container with a couple of pizzas and a bar of soap. Well, then we have individuals making themselves at home on the northern perimeter boundary, which is just this side of the strip mall up there. And what they did last week is they cut a fairly thick chain of about 1/4 of an inch in diameter to open the gate that we have up there. Came in on the property that way. Well, we replaced the chain with a larger diameter chain. And we replaced it with a case hardened steel lock. So when they couldn't get that way, what they did is they cut the chain link fence itself. And then rolled the fence back. And that was on Thursday night. Friday, our security forces and the supervisor, Brian, went by, saw the fence curl back, brought it back, tied it up with some baling wire, so we can get people up there to fix it up. And then, it was today, this afternoon, or this morning, got word that on the northwest side by the Applebee's, where the 2 fences meet, they pulled down the top pole that holds the chain link fence up to hop over the fence. We know who they are. Sarasota Sheriff's Department, there's a report everything is being documented today and tomorrow. Sheriff's Department will be notified tomorrow to file an official report security knows, SSP knows, to tell the sheriffs that SSP speaks for us when they're gonna trespass and make an arrest. They will in effect an arrest. But what I'd like you folks to do, if you see something, now you've heard this term, I know you've heard it, see something, say something. If you see something, call 911 right away. Follow up, calling the security patrol. Everybody should have that number on magnet. If you don't, then make sure you have them at the work, at the annual meeting. And then after you call security, call me. All right? But when you call, let them, try to give them as much of a description of the individuals as you possibly can. I don't want you to get involved. I don't want you to approach them. Because you don't know what their intentions are. You don't want to see anybody hurt. But just be vigilant. And when I say vigilant, observe and report. Let us know. Get a description, male, female, height, approximate. What type of clothing are they wearing? Which direction of travel they will go. That's all going to benefit law enforcement and security forces that are going to come to get these people. I am livid. I am beyond livid about what's going on. I have some ideas. I have some skill sets that I still maintain from my military experience, but I am at my hands are tied as a legal way to do things. So just be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the environment. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Cliff?
I may be way off base by saying what I'm going to say. I don't understand why we can't have security on the property, not on and off, on and off, on and off. Why can't they be here for a set period of time that would cover the hours that, really? That would cover the hours that this is happening, right? We pay a lot of money for security, and I'm sorry, but it just doesn't seem to be doing us very much good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have set hours. I have set hours, and I have variable hours that security comes on. They're kept informed of what's going on and what time it's going to take place. They react and respond accordingly, and they adjust accordingly to what the needs are. Prior to Christmas, we had 3 patrols. Just before Christmas, we started with the bike incidents, where black people were going around shopping for bicycles, and that's when that started. We increased the patrols. That was effective because they got the call. But they can't be everywhere all the time. And the fact is, even if you call the sheriff, their response time is all dependent on where they're located at the particular time they get the call. Okay?
Right, and I understand that, but I guess I'm frustrated as you are, that we don't have security here for a solid night, from like 10 o'clock at night till 4 o'clock in the morning. They are not on this property. They're on the property, they're off the property. They're on the property. What good does that do us if the people that are doing this stuff kind of figures, well, they're not there all the time. Let's just keep an eye out to see when they are there. And then they operate when they're not here. It just...
Well, there's no good answer for that. There is no good answer. The thing that what transpired last night is I got the call at 8:27, and I rushed the reporter party off the phone so I can call security. Wait a second, I'm going to finish this.
No, just want to let you know.
And by the time I got off the phone with the reporting party, I had security on one phone, sheriff's department on the other phone. They had their dispatchers responding to our location. Fortunately for us, They've recently acquired Sawgrass Cove property behind Big Lots. The Quartet is by, is it the Village or
Village is across the
It's-
street, or village is
It's that neighborhood, it's a problem neighborhood behind Walmart, that street that runs between Walmart and Golden Corral. There's an apartment complex back there, they've acquired that property. So they're more in close proximity to us. But, to get back to what I was saying, when you get the call, don't wait and make the call 15 minutes after you identify the issue. Call right away. And when it transpired, the call was made and the alert was given, and the calling party did not report the fact that I had spooked them and they had left. That's information that we could have used right then in that direction. Which way did they go? So we could snap their photograph on the cameras. Okay, so this is important information, and this is how in real world, real time it should work. There's no way we're going to have security here all that time like we want. It's got to cost us a bunch of money. Okay? Now,
I go to the pool generally after dark for some personal reasons. And when I come home, sometimes the security is parked by those tennis courts,
Right.
close to Pinehurst. But he's parked facing the tennis courts.
I'll fix that right.
And I was thinking, somebody's like slinking in.
Right.
If you're looking at the tennis
Yeah,
court.
but your back's to them, what good it was.
And it's dark anyway, like, I don't know, we're paying for this.
Can I say
What day, do you know what day that was?
Last night was facing out.
Okay, I know.
And it was 2 or 3 days ago that I went and was facing to the tennis court.
I'm going to say something. I think the most important thing is that we have to change our way of thinking, that if you see something, we just got to remember one thing, call 911. And I have to tell you, I was the person that called Jim last night. It was in our pool, and I know exactly what happened. They were there when my son and his fiancée got there. That was shortly after 8. They were back to the house by about 8:20. I immediately called Jim, and by the time they got there, the 2 gentlemen got up and left, and they went out that side gate, and we're presuming they went to the left. So when they came home and told me, I should have called 911. And I'm just saying, from now on, I think we need to know that that's number 1, call 911, not Jim, which is what I did, and I apologize for that. Then call the security, and then call Jim. So we wouldn't have caught him anyway, but in my brain, the first thing was to call Jim, even though I'm on the board. So I think we all have to get that out of our brains, even though we have a security system here, which might make us think we call them first. But really, they can't do anything. They don't have a gun or anything else. They can spook them all.
They do.
Do they have guns? They never used to, because you always told them.
Yes, they do. So what?
Especially more frequent than by outside people.
Yes, that's a good question. Pool 7, for some reason, is right in the middle of our property. Pool 7 is located on Oakview and Spring Lake Boulevard. Pool 5, which is hidden amongst trees and on way back, they're Neverland. Pool 1 is right on the road. And Pool 2. Pool 2, okay? And I appreciate it, because I just texted the owner of the company to call me about the patrol officer's habits. I wanted to correct it tonight. I appreciate that information. So he's right, dial 911. Followed up with a phone call to security patrol. Perhaps they're right down the street, perhaps they're on the property. They can get there quicker than the sheriff's department. After you do that, give me a call, okay? Because then I can follow up. A lot of times, I'm out there on time. I'm gone too. And yes, I am armed. Legal. Okay? And my job as a security director is to keep everybody safe, keep our property safe as much as we possibly can. But no job can be done, regardless of what committee you're on, without the help of the owners themselves. John?
Would they, would these guys go around the night?
What?
When the security goes around the night?
Yeah.
They have the lights blasting all over the place. You know, any of these guys that are in here illegally, they see these lights, you get high real quick.
They're only on at certain patrol times, and they fluctuate back and forth. When I come on, we're patrol to let bad guys know, hey, we're here. And other times they come in stealth. So it all depends on what the patrol orders are.
Every time
But
I
it is-
see them, they always have the lights go home.
I have a quick question. When they come on the property, I don't want to know the times or anything, but approximately how long do they remain on the property?
They're here for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Every time they come on?
Yes, except before 4 o'clock in the morning. Takes them a little longer because they are not all the rules, and when they do that, make sure they do it. When they do a light assessment, they do a light assessment and sprinkler assessment too at the same time. Takes them a little bit longer to do that. But they
So
go-
security locks the pool.
Yes, at 11 o'clock at night. Yep. And they unlock them at 4 o'clock in the morning. Unless there's a storm, there's electrical storm or thunderstorm, really don't want to see them touching the metal fence or, dealing with that. Okay? Yes, ma'am, who are you?
Carol Keller.
Hi, Carol Keller, how are you?
Hi. I was just wondering about, I know I live on 101 Pinehurst,
Okay,
and so the back common space is quite large, but it's pitch black. I mean, could more light, I mean, there probably are other
it's
places.
gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. That's part of what I'm talking about tonight. Okay? Any other comments?
Yeah.
John, what do you got?
Claire, I'm as frustrated as you are about the fact that security is an issue, okay? But we've gone through 5 permanent companies since I've been here. When I say permanent, they show up at 8 o'clock and they leave at 5 a.m. or whatever it is. Not one of them could keep officers, not one of them could give us the service that we're getting now, believe it or not, even though it's quote-unquote not full-time on the property. We couldn't get a continuity of officers. We couldn't get them to, the 5 different companies, all come recommended. We went through them. At this company, actually, we pay less. We get written, computer reports every night. You got a report on Sue's, your issue, came in at 7:30 this morning. I saw it. They had already written it up and sent it to me. It's frustrating to have the issues, but we've gone through that full time. The guards show up, they hide. It's found bottles of vodka where one of the guards used to hang out in the trees. I mean, so it is frustrating. Yeah, but these people seem to have given us the best bang for our buck that we have now.
Not only that, the officers,
Come on, John.
security officers that we have are fully vetted. They are former military, or former law enforcement, or current law enforcement working the second job. They are all, yes, sir.
Do they,
Who are you, sir, by the way? Please identify yourself.
Dennis Lee, Rio to Springville, somewhere around where you live, I don't know. The question I have is it possible to suggest to them to do an undercover car? In other words, it's great to see the cars going around, we've seen them, my wife and I have seen them. But to me, an undercover is always a good idea, because then you don't know if they're there or not, and we don't know who's who. But I would think that that's a great idea.
I will take that. Make it happen. Thank you. Leslie?
I just want to say that at previous board meetings, that maybe you weren't here at that, and some other people, we've had complaints from owners that the security company wasn't coming through with their lights blaring. So the security company has tried to please us by doing at least once a night that I see them coming around with their lights big, beautiful lights on. But, so now they're gonna get another method that says, whatever, but they know what they're doing.
There was also, on top of that, there was also some complaints to the security officers that when they come down the boulevard, the lights are going, that the owners can't see, they might be out walking, Gucci or whatever, and they blind them as they're coming down. So what our guys, when I say our guys, our security officers, what they've been doing is that they see somebody on a boulevard, they shut the lights on until they get past the individual or individuals as they're walking down the boulevard. Okay? All right, director's comments.
Just a question.
Go ahead, John.
We've got these cameras all over the place.
Yeah.
What happens to those films? Or don't we see these people walking down the road?
Yes, you can. But if somebody says and makes a report, well, I saw them, and you ask them, okay, what time? What time was this? And, oh, it was, I don't know. All right, or my bike was stopping. If we have a time stamp, a time idea, yes. But to sit there and view a camera based on, I don't know, and what direction they went, we got 5 camera stations. And I sit there either on my cell phone or my iPad, going back, replay, back, until I get what I'm looking for. It's labor intensive, yes. But that's why I'm saying, if we can get the help from the owners, it's a lot easier. Roger?
Nothing.
Pam, you got anything? Deb? Deb?
Well, I wanted to, I don't know how to say this, but I want to thank Jim for all the work he's done. It's above and beyond, I mean, come on. There's some things here that he can do to help, that he's going far beyond what would ordinarily be called. I think we owe him.
I love my community, I love my neighbors, I love my owners, and I like being where I'm at, and safety is a priority. So, you got anything?
I just wanted to ask, like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ow!
I just wanted to thank Tammy for all her hard work on
Yeah, that was a great
the
one.
garage sale. Everybody, I walked around and it was wonderful.
John, you don't have to answer this right now, but I just wanted to know if you followed up on that CAI report regarding the renting and the legislation that I brought up.
We passed it out to everybody so they take a look at it, but right now there's no action because the legislature's not in.
Is that gonna be an active thing? Are we gonna have to write letters?
We probably will have to. We're waiting for a follow-up right now.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to-
What she's talking about is the fact that there's a potential bill in front of the Florida legislature to restrict associations from having restrictions in their leasing articles of declaration. And it's a scary thing, because if the state prohibits us from having restrictions, we become very transient, become an Airbnb, we become who knows what. And I don't know why, who's pushing this, the philosophy behind it, but it's a very scary thing for condominiums and residential communities such as us that do not want to be transient.
Yes.
So we'll let you know if and when.
Les?
No, keep up the good work.
I'm good.
Jim?
Sir? I'll get to the owners. Now owners.
Deb Parker, Oakview. I'm curious where the no bikes on our front patios came from. No bikes on our front patios?
The courtyards you're talking about?
Well, yeah, front courtyards.
We just didn't want you to have them out there to tempt anyone.
It's not against any law.
It's not against anything, it's just more or less a suggestion to benefit yourself. Okay? John?
If we get this problem with bikes, why do we still have bicycle racks by themselves?
They're for your city owners. We've had a bike,
I get that.
we had a bike stolen from that particular spot, had 2 flat tires, was chained to the rack and was taken. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Hi, Beth, from Lakeside.
It's the first time I've been in Guys Rock. This is awesome.
Thank you.
This is my favorite place I've ever been. It's my first time living in a condo, and I love this place. And I have one question, one comment. I'm the one that suggested the little free libraries, because people are leaving books by the mailboxes, and as nice as you keep this place up, I think it looks really tacky, because they get dirty, and I love books.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Good, it is a good idea. We're gonna take a look at it.
And then the water and the dye tablets and that, I've never been a snowbird.
Okay.
Do they all turn their water off when they're gone, and you have a way to check their units?
Well, you would like to say that everybody turns their water off when they're gone, but some don't.
I do.
We encourage it as part of the closing up process when we get the homes when they come in. What we're going to do, starting this season, when folks start leaving, the majority of folks come in and say, hey, guys, thank you very much, we're out of here, we'll see you in October. So we go through the checklist with them, and conversely, but we're going around this year, starting this year, to make sure that it is turned off. We have access to it, we will take care of it. That's not another one. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple things.
Go ahead.
My first suggestion
Hi.
is that I come from a community where at night, what we needed to do when we're out walking, we walk with flashlights. I don't think that's done here. I drive around in here at night and all of a sudden there's a person beside the door, there's no light up. That's a suggestion I have. The second one is, we're talking about things you want residents to do, but I haven't heard the way to educate all residents. For instance, I live in Pinehurst.
Okay.
We had a wonderful yard sale, Tammy, thank you for allowing us to do that. But we had people that were living right on the same sidewalk with us and had no idea about it because they don't access what we've got. The most common place that you have in our community to educate people is the mailbox.
And the kiosk, right.
So if we're talking about educating residents regarding leaking toilets, we should have a notification. Everybody will go there and read that.
Yeah, they gotta go get the.
Where do you get your tabs from and start educating? That's
And that's right, you're right on. But we're in the process of doing that for water, but every bulletin board had for 2 months the yard sale. If they take it down. We found an instance this weekend where somebody took all of the materials for the board meeting and the grounds committee meeting and everything else off the board.
Yeah, you got some people in the community that, I'm just gonna belay that, okay? I'll keep this. Can you read minds a little bit?
Maybe we could encourage people to look at the TV. I mean, we have a channel there, and I'm sure everything, so maybe we need to put that on a bulletin board that it has been on the channel.
We've never asked.
It has been on the bulletin board. But I mean, in the TV, they could look at it, they don't want to look there.
I'll get to you, John, I see you there. Let me get to this gentleman one more time, this one.
Okay, I'm Steve Bates, and I live on Flashers, 136, on the corner with the. I hope you're getting.
And you're from Ohio,
That's pretty rude. Thank you. With regard to the bicycles, I need a clarification. There was an understanding in our A sector there. Can bicycles be put in an enclosed back courtyard?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'll let one of our neighbors know because they were under the understanding that that would not work.
Yeah, no, that's fine. See, well, we're trying to alleviate
The
you losing
visibility.
property, okay?
And you don't want somebody coming up on your front courtyard right to your door to steal.
But that's still a personal choice, it's not in the documents, if they want to do it, we don't want them to do it, but.
Second thing.
Yes, sir.
On the water, I know we have the low flush toilets and have low flow shower heads and low flow aerators throughout. Can you look at maybe a rebate or a discount program where people do that put the low flow devices on their, you know, kitchen sinks and so forth, that you either offer a program with discount at Lowe's or Home Depot, or I refer to Lowe's, they give discounts to veterans, but you know, Lowe's or Home Depot, and you know,
I don't know if you're aware, but Benton County offers, and still offers, replacement of low-flow toilets
Yes.
at $100 per.
yes.
And the only thing you need to prove that you've done that is the top, because on the bottom side of that top of the toilet is numbers that is stamped in, and they can tell what type of toilet you replaced.
Yeah, and that was done, and that discount was taken, so.
John, I'll get to you about just one second.
Just a suggestion, you put up these very nice plaques, or, you know, on the bulletin board, next to the bulletin board.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should put on there about the tablets.
We're gonna get those out at the annual meeting,
Yeah,
and it'll be further publicized, yes.
It's going to be further.
I mean, they're great, you see, everything on there, it's a nice frame and everything else, but just put something on the bottom of it.
George, I see you're not going to get to about Francis.
Just don't put the tabs in the bowl.
Yeah.
I was just going to address this police comment, where I live, already have 6-foot walls around our yards. They will still steal your bicycles.
They want them, they're going to
If
get
they want them, they're going to come in your back courtyard too, so you still might want to think about it.
George, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I'd like to know more about who's sponsoring this, lifting the restrictions on the condos. I mean, saying
It's a legislature.
It's a legislature.
The legislature.
We're gonna publicize it.
All their names represent us in this area.
Yeah.
As a state legislature, will be known to the owners.
You may have to write new letters and then, you know, tell them we don't want them.
Well, I mean, where did this come from? I don't understand.
Oh, the Airbnb, of course. Airbnb lobby. Chris?
I would like to ask the board if they could put on next month's agenda to revisit one of the recommendations that the Bob Dell's ad hoc committee made on energy about taking a look at the solar panel issue. And I think the committee recommended perhaps a consultant. So I'd like to see you put that back on the agenda.
It's already being looked into by a company that responded to us, Chris. We appreciate the comment. Yes, ma'am?
When I listen to this, I know that there's a drop-down level for state, and then counties, and then associations.
Yeah.
Are we not able to keep part or make it look better than to say about the people who lease and all that? It has to be.
What?
Because when I worked for the state, we had to abide by state law. Then we had the cities and counties, and then we had unions, and then we had organizations like unions.
Yeah.
So that's what they put in, but it can be transitioned into the bylaws with different wording so that we would still be able to have part of that in the bylaws. It's like fudge, you know, you just fudge it a little bit and it well, again, I did contracts, so that's why.
Budget is not my terminology. I'm sorry. We go by what our documents and our bylaws are in accordance with the state regulations, Florida Statute 718, which covers condominium associations.
Right, I read that statute. So,
Good. And you understand there's nothing we can do to change, override the state.
I never say never with. But, again, is there people who can look at that seriously and see?
I'm not going to have
The bill hasn't been.
It hasn't been formally proposed yet.
It's in the proposal stored at the state. That's one of the reasons that the community organization called CAI, which represents community associations, boards, and vendors of that nature, are alerting us now that it's going to be proposed. And so the lobbyists for organizations such as us are actively working against it, or will work against it.
Have we flooded whoever is?
Not yet.
Are we?
We just got word on it.
This is some politician who's trying to justify their existence, coming up with a way of what is gonna be best interest for everybody. But that's all they're trying to do, is justify their existence and kneeling down and kowtowing to the Airbnb lobbyists. That's basically what it's all boiled down to. Okay, we're running a little over time than I like. The next meeting will be a board workshop, March 3rd, 10 o'clock at the office.
It's early this year.
Yep, come on, it's early. The owners meeting, March 9th, 2 o'clock, right here at the church. After the owners meeting, there's going to be a brief recess. Then we'll go into the organizational meeting right here. Following the organizational meeting, there'll be a board meeting on the same day, right here again at the church. Any further business? And that motion to adjourn is always in order. Motion made. Second. Folks,